Alright, Zelensky, check out this new peace proposal.
Does it contain NATO-style Article 5 security guarantees for me?
Bro, why are you stressing? Just keep it light. It's Article 5, but it's a light.
Light? Will you defend us?
Yeah, we might.
Right, if they come back again,
we'll see then, maybe not. Could be yes, could be no, keep it light.
Just to clarify, will you fight?
Fight? Loosen up, man, you'll be alright.
Yikes, this happened before, Budapest 94. It's still raw, we need more, it's not right.
Look, just take it or leave it, time is tight.
Sir, I don't mean to be impolite, but
okay, just listen here, you. It's the best I can do. If you want, you can ask the EU.
I heard it's Article 5, but it's light.
Aight,
keeping it light is what I'd like.
True.
Just be evasive when I get invasive. I love to hear bark more than bite.
Oh!
Puppet regime.
When it's windy, I fly kite. Stevie Wonder had no sight. I can do this all day.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead, Zack Smith of Heritage breaks down the legal case against Maduro. Brenda Hafera from Heritage will examine historically accurate travel. Rear Admiral Peter J Brown of AFPI, exactly how we got Maduro. And Jenifer Galardi with the difference in men and women. Plus sketch comedy from Puppet Regime, Babylon B, Al Berry, and Mr. Reagan. And in the spotlight, Luke Holmes. And now from Times Square, where Mayor Mamdani feeds the rats and starves the law-abiding billionaires, here's Kevin! How you doing, friend? Good to have you with us. It's the weekend. Kevin McCullough, glad to be here. Yes, Mamdani, he's been in office at all 6 hours, and he's already tried to steal private property. He's already had to replace several of his appointments because they were so bad. And like, if the guy that you put in the position or the gal has like a written manuscript online, basically in social media, diarying her history of anti-Semitism, probably shouldn't try to put that person in charge of something in the largest Jewish city in the world. It's probably not, shouldn't do that. But friends, that kind of problem doesn't even begin to come close to what we are seeing in many different parts of the country. The corruption, the evil, the people that, this is really, it's frustrating me. I'm very frustrated this day because you have the becoming of infants. Is it infantilizing? It is the infantilization. That's not a word. But it is the regressing back to childhood children throwing temper tantrums about law enforcement officers that is getting people killed. When responsible leaders come forward and should be saying, we need to come together, we need to obey law enforcement, we need to absolutely abide by lawful orders. If a law enforcement officer asks you to do something that's not lawful, you don't have to do that. But if what they ask you to do is within the parameters of the law, like, let's just say, I'm just spitballing here, but let's just, making it up out of the clear blue sky. But let's just say you're in Minneapolis, for kicks and giggles, just pick that city in particular. And you happen to be coming down a street where ICE is effecting a legal search and removal warrant against some criminal aliens in a neighborhood. And you decide randomly, as some girl who has an issue with good legal immigration in our country, you decide to pull up in front of the ICE agents, flip them the bird, make your vehicle go perpendicular to the roadway so that nobody can pass one way or the other. And then when the officer has a question about it, hey, maybe what are you doing here? This doesn't really kind of work. Why are you doing this? Or they say something like, excuse me, ma'am, please get out of the car. Those are called lawful orders. Those are lawful instructions. A police officer, a sheriff's officer, a U.S. Marshal officer, an FBI officer, yes, and an ICE officer are all legally empowered. They have a badge. They've been credentialed. They are licensed by the government to enforce the laws that they are there to do. Now, you may not like the law that's written. You may think, well, I would never obey that. But see, that's where then they can say, but you're in now violation of the law. And so we have the right to arrest you and put you behind bars until you decide to follow the law. But when you decide to turn your vehicle perpendicular in the middle of the street, and then your buddy, your little girlfriend gets out and she runs around with her iPhone and she's, calling curses out to the ICE people and say, hey, check our license plate. We don't change our license plate, blah, blah, blah. And then she gets back in the vehicle just about the time you decide to run over a police officer that has a body cam running on it. This is the insanity that we're in right now, friends. We have gotten to the point where we are children throwing temper tantrums and literally trying to kill law enforcement officers with our vehicles. That's what Renee Good did this week. She tried to run over an officer that was in front of her vehicle after she defied lawful orders to get out of her vehicle because she had unlawfully obstructed traffic with her vehicle. Do you see all of the lawful things and the unlawful things that contributed to the situation where then out of self-defense, a police officer shot her vehicle? By the way, that particular police officer, while issuing another arrest service on another ICE case just a few weeks ago, was not only hit by the vehicle that he was attempting to get an illegal criminal out of, but then that illegal criminal dragged him for about 50 yards down the street. Broke bones, hurt him, did all kinds of things to him. So this is one of those ICE officers. It's like, you know what? If people are going to defy the lawful orders, then we're going to use the force that we're entitled to use to stop them. And when you try to run them over, that's bad. But that was just the start of it, friend, because then what happened was really the shameful part. Because you have all of these elected officials, Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, Eric Swalwell from California, AOC directing it to JD Vance, all of these people running around going, F ICE and F you and get the F out of my state and F over here and F there and I'm going to F up and F this and F that. Friends, we've lost our minds. These are the people that you've elected to represent you. This is the best they can do. What should be happening across the party, the government is effecting lawful searches for criminals legally and have committed crimes. And friends, let me just give you some backstory on something. I've got a buddy here in the New York area who's had two people that are in his work circle in the construction trade that got picked up by ICE. One was sent home because he was here unlawfully, illegally, and he had some minor things going on. And another was held, questioned, and then released and actually allowed to continue the pursuit of his legal status, which he had already started prior to his pickup. Both of those men survived. All the ICE agents that worked with them survived. Why? Because everybody cooperated with the lawful interactions with one another. It is not both parties' problem in this country that is creating this violence. There is one party choosing violence. There is one party choosing to say, F you and F that and F all the rest of them and F everybody because we're just going to F you up when told to do something that is lawful by lawful authority at the time. Again, not asking them to do illegal things, instructing them to do lawful things. one party is choosing violence. One party is defending the violence. One party is saying, hey, if you don't like ICE, beat them up. Hey, if you don't get out of my state, we're going to kick you out. Hey, you don't have to obey these guys. The police chief of Phila, as she pronounced it this week, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the police chief came out and said that ICE agents are fake law enforcement officers. What, do you hold the same thing of the FBI and the U.S. Marshals? They're all under the Justice Department. They all operate under the same code of conduct. What is wrong with you people on the Democratic left that you think you can just destroy our country and then just destroy the people that are here serving to protect us in the midst of it? You have serious problems, folks. Serious problems. And there's more of us than you, so we're not going to let you keep doing it. That's just the way it's going to be. Kevin McCullough, we've got a huge show, lots of good stuff, and Luke Combs is back in the spotlight. Don't change that up.
From New York, that Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for all things related to the broadcast. We appreciate you being with us. Zack Smith is back with us from the Heritage Foundation. And Zack, of course, all things Maduro is the topic these last couple of days. And there's some question, although I didn't know why, about what the legal process would be, but maybe for the uninitiated, which includes me, you can walk us through what we're going to see. And I thought it was really ironic that on the first day when he goes to his first hearing, he waives his speedy trial option, and now he gets to sit in a rotting New York cell until March 17th, I think, is his next court date. But from a legal perspective, what are we going to watch play out here?
Yeah, so look, I think what we saw with Maduro, his wife, making their initial appearance in federal court in Lower Manhattan this week, that was the first step and was likely to be, as you alluded to, a very lengthy criminal process. The charges that Maduro and 5 other individuals, including his wife, are facing are very serious charges. They're charges involving narco-terrorism, drug trafficking, weapons charges. If he is convicted on any one of these charges, he is facing decades, if not life, in prison. And so I think you heard a little bit at his initial appearance. His attorneys expect a voluminous discovery, a lot of documents coming over from the prosecution team. There will likely be a lot of back and forth. We even heard Maduro trying to raise issues about the supposed illegality of his arrest in Venezuela, and the judge wasn't having it at that initial appearance. He said there will be a time and place to raise those issues later, although we can talk about it. The administration is on very solid footing in terms of the actions that it took, legally speaking, in terms of precedent that prior presidents have taken. But look, this is going to be a lengthy process. We just saw the very beginning of it this week, but I think we can all agree it was certainly very surreal to see Maduro and his wife, taking a motorcade through Brooklyn, getting on a helicopter, landing in Lower Manhattan, and then ultimately being transported there to the federal courthouse in New York City to face justice for his many heinous actions.
Well, and so yesterday, I don't think the news media could help but have lots of comparisons to the Noriega arrest and trial and eventual convictions. What you mentioned just a couple of the charges, but how does the Maduro case kind of stack up against what we saw with Noriega? I mean, Noriega actually technically was, I guess, the sitting head of his country when we brought him in. Maduro, we're holding the contention that he was not the head of state in Venezuela, and as such, he's not entitled to any of the arguments about what would be applied to a head of state.
Right. Well, I think one of the reasons you're hearing so many comparisons to the Noriega case is because one of the things that I suspect Maduro and his attorneys will raise is they'll try to say that somehow the U.S. was acting outside of international law, that somehow the president didn't have the authority to take this action to arrest Maduro and his wife for their crimes for which they had been indicted here in the United States. And that's just not true. In fact, if we go back to the late 1980s, the early 1990s, when the Noriega case was playing out, the Office of Legal Counsel, the constitutional lawyers within the Justice Department, they actually wrote a memo saying that the president has the Article 2 authority under the Constitution to help effectuate arrest warrants even outside of the United States. And if you listen to what Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in the immediate aftermath of the Maduro arrest, if you listen to what Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said, they made clear that fundamentally this was a law enforcement action. There were federal agents on the ground with troops when they arrested Maduro and his wife. And just because this arrest took place in a foreign country, just because this arrest took more resources than I think we would typically see to effectuate an arrest warrant, that doesn't make it any less legal. And essentially, that's what the courts held in the Noriega case, that the president has the authority to execute arrest warrants to enforce the law, even if it involves using very high levels of force in foreign countries.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Trump is recalibrating the entire stage with is his kind of pinprick ability to use military, in this case, as support of law enforcement. The claims that the Democrats and that the left and the Democratic Socialists, especially here in the U.S., are making in the media that he wrongfully used war powers here. Is there any legal standing on which they're finding validity for that argument?
No, I don't think so. Again, courts have signed off on these types of actions before. Many prior presidents have taken similar types of actions.
I don't remember any of them complaining when Obama was sending drones over to kill people, including American citizens, during his administration. And I don't think he ever got Congress to sign off on any of those.
Well, the hypocrisy is even worse than that, Kevin, because if you go back and look at clips of Chuck Schumer, other Democratic leaders during the first Trump administration, they were actually criticizing President Trump for not taking more aggressive action against Nicolas Maduro, for not using higher levels of force to bring him to justice. And now that the president has done exactly that, many of those same individuals are now claiming that it was illegal, that this was ill-advised. And so I think it's very clear that, unfortunately, many Democratic politicians are using this in an attempt to score political points instead of looking clear-eyed and trying to understand that what the president did is not only legal, is not only constitutional, but it's within the best interest of the United States as well.
Let's talk a little bit about the structure of the legality here. If Maduro is found guilty on one or multiple charges that he's charged with, and how many charges is he facing? Did you say 5?
There are 5 other individuals who have been indicted along with Nicolas Maduro. But the charges
that he's facing specifically, do you know how many there are?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. Essentially, they fall into 3 buckets, though, Kevin.
Okay, so there's a bunch.
It is. It's a bunch. And the thing I would say, too, the indictment, it's a 25-page indictment, and it's what prosecutors, defense lawyers would call a speaking indictment, where essentially a lot of the verbiage in the indictment is essentially laying out the story, is helping to explain the background that Nicolas Maduro wasn't acting, as you said earlier, as the head of state of Venezuela when he took many of these actions. He was essentially acting as the head of an illegal drug trafficking cartel and taking these actions for his own enrichment, his own benefit, even though they were harming many other people. So
they harmed a lot of Americans. That's why we're trying him. My question is, as a non-American, if he finds himself guilty on the guilty end of one or more of these charges, what is the appeals process like for someone that is not a U.S. citizen? Here we talk about going up and having it appealed and getting to the next level and, all that type of stuff. Is there anything about his case that gives him other appeals beyond the court that he faces now?
Yeah, the criminal justice process is going to play out exactly the same for him, whether you're a citizen, whether you're a non-citizen. He's going to get the full panoply of protections that any criminal defendant would get. That's one of the great things about our country is we make sure that everyone is afforded basic protections, basic due process under the rule of law. And so I suspect if he is convicted, you'll see the normal appeals process play out. He may even try to take his case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, as would be his right to ask the court to take up his case.
Zack Smith, we always appreciate your fine work at Heritage. Thank you for being back with us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
of course, thanks for having me on the show.
Kevin McCullough coming back from Times Square. Don't go anywhere.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for all the needed info. We've had a lot of interesting voices on the show today. We continue to talk about the biggest story of 2026, and that is the outright New Year's Day surprise that we leveled against one of the worst enemies against our country and took him into custody, and now he's going to rot in a jail cell for a couple of months before his next hearing even comes in. I'm talking about Nicolas Maduro, of course, but Dr. Jerry Brown, or Admiral Jerry Brown, is back with us from the America First Policy Institute, and he was the first one to really kind of wave a flag at this back in, I don't know when it was, Admiral, you were last with me. It was May or June, I think, of last summer. And you were talking about the importance that the administration was putting on the security of the Western Hemisphere. And it's hard for the Western Hemisphere to be secure if you have a rogue, non-elected dictator running drugs into our country and migrants to our country and gang members to our country and everything else. Your thoughts on the events of last week?
Well, thanks for having me back, Kevin. And yeah, it is interesting how this has come all full circle over, in just a few months. But talking very specifically about last weekend, a lot of people have commented on the tactical excellence, the flawlessness of, a lightning strike to get Maduro and his wife, fugitives from American justice, indicted drug traffickers and conspirators, and bring them to the U.S. supported by just the outstanding people, tactics, and equipment of the U.S. military. That lightning strike, though, is not just a one-time deal. It was the culmination of a deliberate and principled strategy that the Trump administration began really and have been moving forward in the direction of making the United States and the Western Hemisphere safe, secure, stable, and prosperous. And this was a fantastic, very in that direction.
Yeah. Marco Rubio, who did all of the Sunday shows right after the attack was completed, made continual reference in his appearances to the importance of the administration, the American administration, our administration, continually focusing on the security of the Western Hemisphere. And in the immediate aftermath, and even during the week this week, you've heard from leaders of Colombia and Mexico and Cuba on some level talk about how they're gonna rebuff, or they're gonna resist, or they're not going to allow Trump to do what he did in Venezuela. But those are some of the really bad actors that have not been very faithful in their own capacity to put down cartels and bad players in our hemisphere. How important is it? And I just have to ask this, knowing that I've had a lot of Cuban friends and Colombian friends that have reached out to me over the last few days saying, Kev, do you think he will go get other bad guys that are active? Because we've seen a huge pro-America movement in the Western Hemisphere. Lots of pro-American leaders have been elected, but you still have a handful of holdouts that are very, very anti-America.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Well, and Secretary Rubio very purposely, just 10 days after his 99-0 unanimous confirmation by the Senate, his first foreign trip was to the Western Hemisphere, right, to Panama, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Dominican Republic, very purposefully so. And also that same month, February of last year, he designated, pursuant to a presidential executive order, many cartels, including Cartel de Soles and others, as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global targets. And then you saw the deportation of Trinidad-Nicaragua deportees to El Salvador, the beginning of the movement of military assets from farther afield on the globe toward the Caribbean. And then over the summer, but invisible to the public, the development of the legal justification and the military targeting procedures for getting after the drug trafficking vessels, the oil smuggling vessels, and ultimately to Maduro himself. So this has been a very logical progression. And Maduro was offered a number of off-ramps along the way as this layer upon layer of U.S. activities was presented to him, and he never took the hint. And the goal would be, and I know, having worked directly with President Trump as his Homeland Security advisor, that the president would prefer to show but not use the U.S. military to accomplish these goals.
Admiral Peter, hold that thought there. Coming right back. Kevin McCullough from Times Square. Don't go away.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for all things related, including the podcast, the TV show, the columns, the everything you want, social media, etc. It's all there, thatkevinshow.com. Glad to have you with us. Admiral Peter Brown is with us. And I said, Admiral, I said mistakenly Jerry Brown in the first segment. And I just want everyone to know, I'm not confusing you with the former heinous governor from California. You couldn't be farther apart in terms of my mind, in terms of qualifications and what you're about. So thank you for being a good sport and letting me fix that. But Admiral Peter Brown, Rear Admiral Peter Brown's with us. And he's part of America First Policy Institute's focus on the Western Hemisphere, which Admiral, to be honest, I don't think a lot of people were paying that much attention to prior to the return of Trump to the White House. I don't even know a lot of MAGA people knew the importance of what needed to be done in our hemisphere.
Yeah, and it's truly sad because the region had been literally overlooked by the foreign policy establishment of both parties for decades. Essentially, the only thing that we cared about, if we cared at all, were the drug flow and when it exploded, the migrant flow. But everything else about the hemisphere was just neglected for far too long. And President Trump and Secretary Rubio have put an end to that neglect and put it literally as the first priority of not only their foreign policy, but also the national security strategy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, but I'm somewhat amazed at how productive one administration can be in so many different proficiencies while in office, because this is an administration that has handled Middle East. We took out the Iranian capacity. We are still involved in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, trying to bring that to an end, but we solved 9 other conflicts that were going on. We've gone and gotten the worst thug and cartel boss in our hemisphere here. There's notices being served in Colombia and Cuba and other places to shape up or be ready to be shipped out. And that's all going on simultaneously to the domestic policy, which is addressing inflation. And normally you have an administration that says, I'm going to focus on domestic or I'm going to focus on foreign affairs. And they usually don't do both well if they are heavy in one or the other. But this administration seems so balanced and simultaneously productive. It's kind of like I'm asking myself the question, what did we get out of other administrations? What did our money pay for? It wasn't people that were working as hard as this group is.
No, and to me, and I've mentioned this to other people in private meetings, the 2 best features of this Trump administration, Trump 47, compared to all others, and even to Trump 45, the administration which I worked with, is that he has picked for key leadership positions. We've talked a lot about Secretary Rubio,
right?
But DHS Secretary Noem, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, all these folks have two key features to them, and they are that they know how to speak plainly to the American people without the euphemism, the doublespeak, and the evasion of responsibility, the type of language that's previously been used by politicians.
Wow.
And then the second thing is that they are not beholden to the bureaucracies, that they are moving in a completely different direction from the failed administrations of the past.
Well, that is obvious, and I love having really competent little mini-me's of Donald Trump at the head of each cabinet division. I just think it's an incredible example of what government can and we should be, as voters, holding them accountable to accomplish when they're in office. You don't get days off. You're on our dime. You're supposed to be there fixing the country, and in every way possible, this group is under the hood. Changing the spark plugs, making sure the timing belt's good. Like they are doing what they need to do to make sure that they're leaving the country in a much better place than what they inherited from it. Let me move to a different topic that you've recently written about, and that's the importance of minerals that. And I think Venezuela has a significant deposit of some of these, but there are many others in some countries where we are at competing interests with China. And this is one of the things that I believe is going to be one of, if not the most important energy-related debates and issues going forward. Whoever controls the mass supply of energy and the technology for how we use that energy to create knowledge, facts, technology, defense systems, etc. It's all interrelated. So this is like really, really important. But you're issuing kind of a stern warning to the public and to leaders to say, hey, don't forget that the minerals, particularly the rare earth stuff, is really, really vital, and China wants to own our lunch on it.
Absolutely. And the Don Roe doctrine, or the Trump corollary that's embedded in the national security strategy, and that he's talked about, including hemispheric action, militarily and diplomatically, but also commercially, to not allow them to dominate, whether it's the port facilities, the transportation, or the assets and resources of the Western Hemisphere. So, don't allow Venezuela's oil to be shipped to China and to profit Venezuela and China. Instead, have it shipped to the United States for refining, with a profit to benefit the people of Venezuela, the people of Venezuela who've had to flee, and also the U.S. companies that had property expropriated. And with regard to rare earth minerals and other critical minerals, absolutely vital that the U.S. have a secure, and the Western Hemisphere have a secure supply chain for those items that are vital to batteries, solar panels, all manner of electronics for defense and commercial purposes.
Yeah.
And remember, we've talked a lot. You've heard a lot about the Monroe Doctrine lately. The Monroe Doctrine really sprang out of arguments that Alexander Hamilton made way back in the Federalist Papers, in Federalist 11 and 12, where he argued for a robust Navy to be the tiebreaker, essentially, and start pushing back on European powers in the Western Hemisphere.
Admiral Peter Brown, we appreciate your service to our country. We appreciate your service now in the capacity that you're in and helping the country stay focused on some of these important issues.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Somalians have a right to steal billions of dollars with fake daycare centers, Donald. That's their culture. I spent a few months in Somalia myself, and do you know what I leered? What, Tim? I leered that Somalians steal money from the government there, too. Tim, I had no choice. Somalians stole $9 billion before you noticed. Oh, right, like it's so easy to keep track of $9 billion. How am I supposed to watch that many bills at the same time? Besides, I never leered finance. You don't need to know finance to see $9 billion went missing. Yeah, well, not everyone is a leered businessman, Donald. Tim, did you help the Somalians steal money? No. How's everything going, Tim? Is Donut still going to cut the fence? I have a private jet in layaway, but I have to make the purchase by Friday. I'm still on the phone with him, but he's being stubborn. Alright, give it to me. Donut, it's Ilhan Omar. I'm sorry, who? I'm the Somalian congresswoman who sleeps with her brother and says white people are the devil. Oh yeah. Listen, you can't cut funding to Somalians because they stole a handful of money. That's their culture. Ilhan, are you part of the scheme as well? How dare you ask me that? I would never steal money from taxpayers. I worked really hard to increase my net worth from like $45,000 to over $30 million in 6 years on a $174,000 salary. Damn, how are we going to steal taxpayer money now? Well, I have one idea. Well, I guess I have to resign as the governor of Minnesota. People think it's such a big deal when Somalians use fake daycare centers to steal $9 billion from taxpayers. Apparently, it's all my fault they got away with it for so long. It doesn't even make any sense. I never learned finance. Why is it my fault?
2, 3, 8. Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him from his Votes-for-Damas.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come, Brenda Hafera from Heritage on historically accurate travel. Plus, Jenifer Galardi, also from Heritage Foundation, Men, Women, Truth, Biology, and What Difference It Makes. Plus, more sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee, Al Berry, and Mr. Reagan. And in the spotlight, once again, Luke Holmes. And now from Times Square, where Mayor Mamdani governs the criminals, the chaos, and the city rats, here's the cover!
I'm Kevin McCullough. Clarity this weekend broke out at an anti-ICE protest when a masked agitator admitted live on television that she's getting paid right now, which explains the matching signs, synchronized chants, and why every protest somehow has better funding than your kid's school. Turns out grassroots just means the money's buried a little bit deeper. President Trump briefly paused an oil executive summit to check on White House ballroom renovations, because when you're rebuilding American energy dominance, you still have time to make sure that the chandeliers don't wobble. Sources say the progress is impressive, the ceilings are high, and unlike the previous administration, someone actually knows where the blueprints are. In Iran, protests are growing deadlier despite the regime's internet blackout, proving once again that when tyranny meets hunger, Wi-Fi is optional. The Ayatollah tried shutting down Instagram. The people answered with Molotov cocktails. History remains undefeated. Back in Pennsylvania, police allegedly found over 100 sets of human remains in a man's home and storage unit, making him the first American to max out both Zillow and U-Haul. Authorities described it as horror movie-like, though neighbors say he's always paid rent on time. In New York, Mamdani continues crushing landlords under rigged housing laws while siding with tenants, ensuring everyone loses equally. Marx would be proud. Renters still won't get apartments, but at least ideology is comfortable. Hollywood weighed in as Kate Hudson defended her movie song against criticism from the real family involved. And Ethan Hawke recalled his first kiss with Gwyneth Paltrow as disappointing, proving some things are aging better when fictionalized. For a Simon Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
Boy diddy, boy da, bang de dang diddy diddy diddy, chuck the buggy and up, chuck the buggy.
My name is Kid Rock. Baw diddy, baw da, bang dee dang diddy diddy diddy, chuck the buggy and up, chuck the buggy. Baw diddy, baw da, bang. I'm not embarrassed.
Okay.
What's the big emergency?
Sir, Bill Clinton is here. He says he has information about Porge Poros, something about a global conspiracy. He says he brought McDonald's.
Send him in. Bill, you look terrible. What's going on?
Porge Poros, the corrupt billionaire criminal mastermind, is buying up gold reserves all over the world. Central banks, private holdings, mining operations. He's cornering the global gold market. He tried to buy the U.S. gold reserves too, until you spoiled things by winning the last election.
That all sounds pretty shady, but it's not illegal. Why come to us?
Because I suspect there's a bigger plan at play here. Something more sinister. Whatever he's planning, I believe it will throw the entire world gold market into chaos.
Well, that's not good. I love gold. It's classy.
Do you have any idea what this plan might be?
No, but I know the man who does. The man that set up every international gold sale for Poros, every introduction, every transaction, every back channel deal. Joe Biden.
Why are you telling us this, Bill? I thought you were friends with Poros. Same social circles, same parties, same islands.
Those were humanitarian. Look, the truth is that Porge Poros is a card cheat.
What?
We've been playing canasta every Thursday for 15 years. The guy cheats every single time.
You're revealing a major sinister plot by an evil supervillain that might end in world economic collapse because he cheated you at canasta?
Have you ever played cards with a card cheat? It is infuriating. I complained to Hillary, but she just says, "Oh really, you're complaining about someone cheating? Well, I guess now you know what it feels like." She makes me call her Madam President. It's weird.
Okay, Bill. We'll look into it. Whatever Poros is planning, he's not going to get away with it.
Good luck, guys. And if you get a chance, tell him I want my $40 back.
Looks like we've got to interrogate Joe Biden. Shall I assemble a team, sir?
Yes, assemble a team. This is not going to be easy, but we'll make him talk. Torture, blackmail, bribery, whatever it takes.
Torture, blackmail, bribery? How far will our heroes go to extract the truth from sleepy Joe Biden? Find out in the next thrilling adventure of Maga-Man.
Is a robot going to take your job? Here are the 10 careers that are safe from being replaced with AI. Number 1, AI salesman. Somebody's got to sell the AI. Number 2, a 5-fingered hand model. AI still is a little shaky on hands, so if you got one of these bad boys, you're safe. Number 3, Starbucks barista. Artificial intelligence will never be capable of misspelling your name with this level of consistency. Number 4, a DMV employee. A cold, emotionless robot would be far too warm and personable to work at the DMV. Number 5, strawberry picker. This job's for Mexicans. Number 6, Taylor Lorenz. If your job is Taylor Lorenz, you're safe because AI just can't achieve that level of stupidity. Number 7, WNBA player. They've tried AI robots playing WNBA basketball. Unfortunately, they're just too good. Number 8, church sound guy. See, AI actually knows how to use a soundboard and doesn't make mistakes, which is disqualifying for the position. Number 9, MLB umpire. Artificial intelligence just can't be trained to make that many bad calls.
What's the matter, Are you blind?
Number 10, Babylon B writer. Us Babylon B staffers are completely safe from being replaced by robots. Oh, hey, Seth. Yeah, I was just shooting a video. Yeah, I can come in the office. Yeah, I understand. Oh. Well, thanks for the opportunity. I've enjoyed working with you, too. So, love you. Well, there you have it. Did we miss any jobs that are safe from the robot takeover? Let us know in the comments. And also let us know if you know of any job openings for moderately funny comedy writers. Ha ha ha.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Now, back to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com, and That Kevin Show on all social media. I'm very excited to welcome my next guest because I didn't know the project she was working on, but once I found out about it, I couldn't stop talking about it. Brenda Hafera is joining us from the Heritage Foundation, and she works in the American Studies department over there. It's a big mouthful, the center. Research fellow in the Heritage Foundation's B. Kenneth Simon Center for American Studies. But Brenda, it's a joy to have you here. Thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I do in my spare time a little bit of travel, and I write about travel for Salem Media Group nationwide. We have about 1.6 million people that subscribe to our weekly magazine that get my little insights and tidbits on places to go. So when you launched this new historical sites guide, it got my attention right away because I love history. I love traveling to see history. And now, in honor of the 250th birthday of the country, you guys have launched something that's really special. First of all, before you tell us what it is and how it works, what was the impetus for why you decided to create it?
Yes, so the impetus was, I think a lot of people have gone to our historic sites in recent years and noticed that sometimes some things have changed, that the exhibits, the tours, sometimes distort history. They've gotten a little bit ideological. And those are just the things.
Can we say that some of them have been wokeified?
Yeah, to that degree. James Madison's Montpelier does not include any exhibits on James Madison these days. And so that's a problem. And so people are seeing that. So that's one part of it. But then there are the unknown unknowns of no one can be an expert in all areas and aspects of American history. And so there are distortions that you might not even notice because you're going to a historic site to learn. So that was kind of the problem that we identified.
And the solution then became what?
The solution is called the Heritage Guide to Historic Sites. So this is an online interactive map that pinpoints historic sites all across the country, and they're all notable sites that are significant, they're worth going to, and then it offers an evaluation and a grade, A, B, or C, based on accuracy and comprehension, ideological bias, and proportionality. And we've sent people whose backgrounds match the site themselves. So, for example, a poet reviewed Edgar Allan Poe's house, which brings a unique perspective to the guide, but also helps with that accountability piece.
So in the process of doing this, did you guys learn things about American history that you didn't know before?
Oh, I absolutely did. This is one of my favorite parts of this project. So the positive part of this project is we want American families to go to historic sites to celebrate America 250 this summer. We're coming up on the 250th birthday of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So you should go because you're going to learn a lot. One thing I learned, for example, Noah Webster's house, of Webster dictionary fame, the evaluator emphasized the importance of language for forming the American culture, which I thought was such a great point and very interesting.
Well, and it's one of the things that has found its way into the modern debate. Should there be an official language for the U.S.? And if so, what is it? I remember ridiculously back in the early 90s, Jesse Jackson pressing for Ebonics to be certified as a language spoken in the U.S. And I'm like, no. And the concept of a nation really being defined by a few simple things, which is a shared culture, a shared language, and a shared border, is something that has come into greater focus, especially in the Trump era.
And then there are things like the term responsibility was really kind of developed during the founding era. It was used in the Federalist Papers. It was used during the Constitutional Convention. This idea of personal responsibility, which is very much a part of who we are, and then that representatives should be responsive to the people. And so you can kind of see how these words, what they come to mean and what that says about us, which I think is really interesting.
I always thought it was interesting that from the kind of the British monarchical system, you had this, new country born, and there's always, when you talk about like the royal family, there's always this like sense of duty and sense of decorum and honor and responsibility, if you will, that they held to the people. But we kind of adopted that in the American system as it being our duty to one another to be personally responsible.
I think that's right. It's a new kind of country that's built on individual dignity, right? And the rights and responsibilities that we have. And it's not only the rights that I have, but then I have the responsibility, the duty to respect your rights.
Right.
Those things are reciprocal, and we come together as one people and make these declarations and these promises to one another.
This is so cool, and you didn't just do the colonial era East Coast kind of Washington to Trenton to New York to Boston kind of corridor. You've done nationwide historical sites that are significant. What other eras do we know things about?
Yes, so it includes all eras. Right now we've launched sites in the 13 original colonies. We're planning on launching the rest. The map will include at least one site in every state, and we're looking at early next year to have those. So again, families will be able to plan their summer vacations to go to historic sites to celebrate our anniversary. And so it includes all eras and different aspects of American history. It includes battlefields, presidential homes, literature and art, places like Mark Twain's house, heroic figures. It's all of it. It's meant to tell the American story as a whole.
Well, 250 years is a big piece of history to tell. I'm assuming that you cover the Great Wars as well, the attack on Pearl Harbor, even the World Trade Center and the modern era?
Yes, it includes all of that. And I will note we're planning on launching about 135 sites in February or so. That's only kind of scratching the surface. We couldn't include everything. And to that end, there's a form on the website where the American people can go in and say, a site has changed since you were last there.
Oh, wow.
Here's another site that you should go to that we recommend, or we disagree with what you have to say. So we want to kind of crowdsource this work. It's a living project that we intend to add to.
Well, that's the way it's done these days. And congratulations to Heritage for what you're doing. If people want to see what's already available, where do they go?
historicsites.heritage.org.
Okay, historicsites.heritage.org. Is there a main link on heritage.org if people get lost?
There is on the landing page, but that's your best bet. Historicsites.heritage.org. That's the direct.
All right.
Yeah.
Brenda Hafera, we appreciate all your work, and I am personally very excited about this because I want to get more and more Americans familiar with what made our country the greatest country on the planet, and you've done the heavy lifting here in a remarkable fashion. Historicsites.heritage.org, friends. Historicsites.heritage.org.
Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back, Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. Jenifer Galardi is back with us from the Heritage Foundation. You may have known some of her fitness work in the past. She's kind of famous for what she's done by way of keeping bodies healthy, but she's written most recently in the New York Post about how to keep your mind and your soul kind of healthy in the holiday season, and it's opened up a very interesting discussion. Jenifer, you mentioned the word that I kind of unrolled this last week on the show, to elevate life, and aiming at something higher than the muck and the mire that we seem to be, so just willing to live in all the time. And this is what I was thinking about this over the holidays, and it really started to bother me because I'm like, why are we always so angry? Why is everybody on all sides like just there doesn't seem to be any kind of real, and it kind of hit me that we all have to be kind of aiming to not be like, you've got to be doing it on purpose to kind of avoid that. Otherwise you just get washed up in all the muck and the mire around you in terms of the emotional garbage that's out there. But when we set our mind and say, I want to think about higher things. I want to aim for higher objectives. I want to have deeper relationships with people that are meaningful, and I want to communicate in a better way, and I want to learn more about stuff I don't know about so that I can do more and be more proficient in things that I've not been as good in. When we aim for that elevation, it starts to, on the individual by individual basis, kind of change all of society.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And what you're talking about for me really boils down to kind of the spiritual life, your faith, because as an Orthodox, there's a big piece of my faith that has to deal with beauty. You aim for the good, the beautiful, and the true. And when we degrade everything to kind of its basest form, our architecture, our movies, our entertainment, our the books we read, it's just like when
throw the kids on screens, we have nothing else for them to do.
Yeah, like when we don't get outside, we're not surrounded by the awe and the beauty of nature, of God's created works. But like, again, even the architecture we do now, it's just ugly. There's no reason to look up. And so when there's no reason to look up and aim to high, and this is why one of that, like I said, that one of I found the greatest kind of tags in conservatism was aim for the good, the true, and the beautiful.
Right.
And the beauty part of it is so important to me because look at where our mass media has gone. It's gone to putting, not that we should shame anybody for being overweight, but why are we celebrating heavy women on the cover of a Sports Illustrated? It's like in the name of equity, we have to bring everything down just to make everybody feel included. And I mean, I experienced some of that myself. And I think I felt guilty for being fit and healthy and attractive. I was on covers of magazines. I was on covers of DVDs. And this particularly speaks to women because women want everybody to be happy and included. We're the nurturers, right? We're the ones who want to make everybody feel good. We're the mama bears. And the left plays on that in ways that is very subversive and very kind of insidious. You don't realize it's happening, but I think I felt guilty for being high achieving, for being attractive, for knowing men would look at, and I downplayed that intentionally. And I think for as much success as I had, I probably could have had more, whatever that is, whatever that means. But then you also realize it's like, well, that's not really what matters in life. But when we bring everything down to that level, it's just, we're not aiming upward.
Yeah.
And we're not giving kids a reason to aspire to a happy marriage. And you get these very disenchanted, disillusioned. You get this is a word I did not know until the Nick Fuentes thing came up. What are they called? Groypers?
Yeah.
The incels, and these like kind of miserable single women that all they can do is find things to complain about.
There's plenty of those on the male side too. But yeah Gen Z is particularly subject to this because they are inheriting economic, global security, a number of different areas of life and public policy that are coming down to their generation that are way different than the previous ones preceding them. And the likelihood that, for instance, they'll ever own their own home is, such a big challenge for them. And it coincides with this couple of generation cycle that we've done of things like body positivity and saying that stuff that didn't look good, was beautiful, and confusing the definitions of things. And look, I don't want more eating disorders or people that are unhealthy going the other direction either, because I don't find beauty in that either. What I want to try to embrace and bring people to is what is holistic? What does God call good? Jenifer Galardi is my guest. We're going to take one more break.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. Such an interesting and dynamic conversation with Jenifer Galardi of the Heritage Foundation, and glad to have her for a few more minutes. Jenifer, you said during the break that people kind of give you grief because, you're kind of harping on what the women can do to kind of make this situation better. The reason I wrote the book, and by the way, for those of you wondering, it is still available out there. You can find 1 or 2 copies somewhere. It's called The Kind of Man Every Man Should Be. But the reason I wrote the book and aimed it at men was because I felt like there was work that men needed to focus on. It's not my business as a man to tell the women what they need to be doing, but I will say that the way the culture embraced the modern feminist mindset, which is that men are more or less replaceable and useless, and so we can just kick them to the curb, kind of opened up this window then for men to go, well, okay, then I just won't try as much. And you saw that across the board. In courting, in dating, in marriage, in ambition for their career, in trying to make the world a better place, feeling like they need to protect and provide for the people that they have responsibility for. It all just kind of like hit the skids, kind of took a break, flew out the window, whatever you want to pick your word picture. But like they were basically given permission to be like, okay, I just don't count. And the truth is, we need vibrant, dynamic men being strong, and we need vibrant, dynamic women being fully who God made them to be. And when those two individuals are operating in their strengths, and I don't mean abuse or overpowering or anything, I mean when they're really understanding who they are and working together, the coming together is so powerful. I felt like for the men, at least, there were I picked 12 areas of virtues or habits or things that I felt like needed to be kind of sewn into the life of men. And then I put them with habits that they could repeat on a regular basis. And you know who I heard from the most, Jenifer, after the book was published? Single moms saying, I don't have a man in my life. I'm trying to raise a son, and I have no clue where to start. And what you're telling me is exactly like the roadmap of how to build character into him. Mm-hmm. And I was so thankful because it was like, okay, we provided at least a small tool for somebody to get a part of this right again.
Right. You mentioned 2 words. I think you said protect and purpose. So I agree with you that men have to do the work too, but why do men do the work? They do it to protect and provide for their families. Yeah. Men really, I will say this until the day I die, because I was out in California and saw all these Peter Pan men. Men don't grow up.
My wife's from California. She called them the exact same thing.
Yeah, they're Peter Pans. My boyfriend, he's like, what? Peter Pan? He had never heard of the term.
Yeah.
Because he grew up here on the East Coast and got married young and had family and had to grow up, right? He has no choice but to be responsible for 3 little souls, right? A boy and 2 girls, to teach 2 girls how they should be treated by men, right? To teach his young boy how to treat women. Mm-hmm. So I don't think men will do that without a good reason. They will be kind of, they're just Neanderthal, do what they do, instinctual men, without women holding the line and saying, until you get a job, until we're married, until you can provide for me, then we're not either having sex or going out on another date, right? Women can elevate men in the right way.
And I don't even think they should really give themselves to like a long-term commitment, regardless of whether they're having sex or not. Because I think when you tie up a woman's heart, you're actually robbing her of, finding what she potentially has awaiting her, that maybe God intends something different. So let me ask you this. Because I think that the piece that you and Scott wrote for the New York Post is really important. But what are some action steps that you would like to see society as a whole or people individually begin to take to kind of elevate this idea of how they go about thinking about this area of their life and then actually engaging in it?
I think there needs to be a step towards humility. I think women need to say, we got it wrong. Instead of just continuing to say, we've been doing this and it hasn't worked. The data supports, like in the piece, women are not happy. You see it everywhere. You see the women that vote for Kamala Harris that showed up for her. It's just a never ending list of grievances. So at some point, women have to say, this isn't working, unless they are really happy being single and a CEO. And we're not saying that that's for everybody. Right. But for most people, if they are aligned with human nature, particularly aligned with God's desire and their own biology, women need to get back in their bodies and understand their power. 2, we need to stop teaching this hogwash in universities, feminism and all. I mean, we can look at it from a historical perspective, but then we should also be willing to be honest about where it's led us and where this rift between men and women has led us to a society that is just so consumer driven and thinking we're going to be fulfilled by everything but the thing that God designs for our life, which is relationship and family.
Well, and to your point on that earlier, you mentioned the lack of kids. Childbirth's a pain. Like my bride had 3 and they were C-sections and she still had long recoveries and there were problems but we had to do it out of necessity, not out of convenience. Right. But the thing about it was, I also hear her words ringing in my head. God gives you amnesia on purpose. To this day, and our youngest is now 10, she says, I miss a little baby. I'd love to hold a little baby in my arm again. That's not something that society told her to do. That's something that's God birthed inside of her.
Right. So realigning, and this is part of our Restoring American Wellness. This is where that holistic piece of health comes in. When girls are given the birth control pill at 13, they're basically being put into menopause. Yeah. Or they're being, you have acne, here's a birth control pill. Oh, you're depressed, here's some SSRIs. I have a piece out about that, about how we're kind of medicating all of these women and how easy it is. But the other piece I'll say, and you mentioned this, is the societal piece. And I've been so heartened by all of the messaging coming out of the executive office. There was just, if you haven't seen it, go on Instagram and look up the White House. There was like a 3 to 4 minute piece on the wives of the members of the administration talking about their holiday traditions. It was so beautiful. They just looked like lovely women. They weren't dressed. I mean, what a refreshing change from Jill Biden's crazy Christmas card with trans tap dancers going through the Oval Office. It was so nice to just feel like, oh my God, it's okay to be normal.
Jenifer, we could do this all day. Thank you for coming back and have a happy new year. And please come back and see us several times.
Stick around for more of